Carl Friedrich Louis Doberman, who was born on the 21st of January 1834 and who died on the 9th of June 1895, was a Prussian official. A clerk at the town hall in the city of Apolda in Thuringia, he performed various activities: tax collector, bailiff, town crier, dog catcher, management of the town kennel, night watchman, etc. He was also a passionate dog lover, and since some of the duties of which he was in charge involved some risk, and which at times meant he went around with considerable sums of money, he bred and selected dogs particularly suited for guard and watch duties, and he always took a couple of them with him when working. They were pinscher-type dogs, very widespread then all over Germany, and whose ancient origins date back to the Stone Age. Doberman bred dogs along with two partners and operated in such a way as to obtain a dog that was particularly suitable for guard and watch duties, introducing blood from other breeds into the pinscher to improve the local type selected by him. In Apolda, on the first Sunday of Pentecost, a dog market of all kinds was held: gun dogs, watch dogs, sheepdogs, etc., and those bred by Doberman were much in demand and renowned and were commonly called Doberman Pinscher. In 1951, Philipp Grunig, editor of the German magazine Unser Dobermann, wrote that Doberman had two extremely mordacious and not very high dogs that always accompanied him for defense. One was a mousy grey colour, the other being black dappled. Progenitor of the breed was a female born from the mating between a pinscher and one of Doberman's bitches named Bismarck. Bismarck was black with yellow dapple, of large size and with the right desired character, she also being of pinscher type. The name Bismarck was later on changed to Bizart, on the order of the Burgermeister, who considered it disrespectful towards the powerful Chancellor to call a dog by such a name. Robert, one of Doberman's sons, recalls in one of his recollections that Bizart, in her first litter, also produced puppies of a colour between grey and off-white, which were known as Mehlsack in the family, that is, sacks of flour. Exactly which breeds have contributed to the formation of the type we now know is not known with certainty, but the already cited Philipp Grunig, in the same article published in 1951, mentions the Weimaraner, the Manchester Terrier, which was higher than the present-day type in those days, and the Greyhound. There is definite news of the use of the Manchester Terrier and the Greyhound, in addition to the French Bosseron, introduced by Napoleon Bonaparte into all the countries he conquered. Some people believe that a dog called the Stoppelhopser, by now extinct, was also used, and it also contributed to the creation of the German Shepherd dog. Also the butcher's dog, the extinct progenitor of the Rottweiler, according to many, among which Otto Zettergast, who was among the first of its breeders, are to be considered among its ancestors. The Doberman made its first appearance in a show in 1897 in Erfurt, not far from Apolda, and was recognized in 1898. In 1899, dogs of the breed were exhibited at a show in Berlin and in Apolda in 1900. Much of the credit for the formation of the Doberman goes to Otto Göhler, who was one of the first breeders with the von Thüringen notice and contributed to its creation, so much so that in 1949 somebody wrote in a dog magazine, "Columbus discovered America and Amerigo Vespucci gave it its name. Otto Göhler created the breed and Doberman gave it its name." Göhler fought to get the Doberman officially recognized and was among the instigators of the club that was founded in Apolda in 1899. The first two dogs registered in the pedigree books were his, Graf Belling von Groenland at number 1 and Gerhilde von Groenland at number 2. Even better dogs started to be born from the start of the 20th century onwards, both from an aesthetic and character point of view, and their numbers grew considerably. With the outbreak of the First World War, breeding came to a sudden halt, but upon its termination the breed resumed spreading, also as a message dog with the occupying armies, and in the immediate post-war period made its appearance in the United States, proving a big success. The tests of courage and intelligence shown in military use during the two world wars were to confirm the Doberman's reputation throughout the world. The Doberman also appeared in cinema films, always playing the part of the fierce guardian or the fearsome wartime message dog. It captured the public's imagination, and the demand for dogs of the breed grew out of all proportion. Such demand came from those seeking an effective defender and guardian during a delicate moment of our history in which there was a lot of insecurity and fear. It also has to be remembered that the Doberman had practically become a symbol, and many began to want one only so as to be able to show it off to the attention of others and gratify their own vanity. Those years saw the formation of the metropolitan legends and popular imagination with regard to the breed, at times often encouraged by the mass media. People no longer talked about the SS of dogs, but of dogs of the SS, specifically bred to go mad at 3 or 5 or 9 years old. It was condescendingly explained that since the Doberman's brain grew more than the cranium, the dog went mad after a few years and became mordacious and dangerous with everybody, including its master. It was said that the jaw was shaped in such a way as to lock once having bitten. They were all lies that hid the simple truth. The Doberman had physical and character problems because it had been badly bred by a large number of unprepared, unscrupulous and incompetent breeders. Alongside the large number of second-rate breeders, there were also excellent, serious and qualified people making selections. Real enthusiasts who also continued through the dark years to breed with competence and enthusiasm, and they managed to take the Doberman back to its original type, achieving dogs of undeniable value that have gained distinction in the rings worldwide, including Germany, the breed's homeland. The Doberman has a very marked pack instinct. It is the instinct that makes it intervene also harshly against whoever tries to invade the territory occupied by the group it belongs to, or threatens its balance, or threatens one of its members. Sensitivity is another trait of this breed that allows it to understand what the master wants, also by a minimal gesture, ready to perform the command promptly and enthusiastically. Anyone who has seen a Doberman working well together with its handler has always been amazed. This is why it is a good idea, if you want to proceed with training your dog, to see to it personally. The Doberman is tied to its master by profound affection, and therefore will multiply the energy put into carrying out exercises. Again, to point out the Doberman's working capacities, we quote a test carried out by Dr. Bruckner, who was Chief of Staff of the German Army during the Second World War, responsible for the preparation of dogs then destined to the operational departments between 1939 and 1945, and who had over 45,000 specimens trained under his command. According to Bruckner, the Doberman works quickly on the trail with its muzzle raised. In searching, it is no less sure than dogs that follow the trail with their noses to the ground, and in return proceeds with greater speed. It learns less easily than the German Shepherd, which obeys immediately and shows a greater desire to learn. However, this does not take away the fact that having once learned an exercise, it will stay in its memory. Its character, though lively and incisive, is definitely better equipped than that of the Airedale. It is without doubt the fastest and most constant breed in following a trail. It moves extremely well over any terrain, boldly overcoming dunes, swamps, rocks, etc. The Doberman, in my opinion, is the most suitable breed as a message dog. It performs very well as a track dog, guard dog, watchdog, and medical dog. Its wartime use has always shown that if a Doberman in war situations is subjected to stressful conditions, crossfire, explosions, flames, etc., it will complete the task entrusted to it, and, if required, will repeat it. Whereas the same dog, if wounded during a military operation, will complete the task but will refuse to repeat it later on. The Doberman knows how to defend its handler with extreme courage and decision, and also how to react with lightning-quick speed. Nowadays, however, the Doberman is above all a splendid family dog. Of fairly large size but not cumbersome, with beautiful, shiny, smooth hair without underfur, it is an excellent guardian of property, a house or car, and an incomparable defender of people. In order to realize what is meant by incomparable defender of people, one needs to attend some training sessions or work tests. The Doberman is a fascicle of nerves and muscles that cover a robust, functional and solid bone structure. Its attention to things happening around it is extremely high, and supervision of its master's safety is always very high, ready to put its perfect machine-like body into motion in order to intervene. When it enters a field for work, all its senses are alerted. It is apparent from how it attentively looks at what is happening all around, from how it also only imperceptibly moves its ears to detect the slightest sound, from how its nose, though staying almost immobile, senses the slightest trail in the air. The launched attack test demonstrates what a Doberman is. After the walk-on has unexpectedly appeared from a hiding place, threatening the handler who is holding the dog by its lead, which naturally reacts, the same walk-on then goes off, initially walking and then running. At this point, the handler launches the Doberman in pursuit. And here, its precious mechanism is set off. An instantaneous, dazzling spurt, followed by an elegant, very fast gallop, inherited from the greyhound. When the walk-on stops upon the judge's command and turns to confront the dog, threatening it with a stick when the dog is around 10 meters away, the Doberman must not show a minimal sign of fear. A utility dog par excellence, endowed with courage that does not hold it back, even if its life is at stake, it is ready to sacrifice itself to save its master or people to which it is attached. It loves work and is eager to show what it can do. It possesses lively intelligence, thanks to which it learns everything quickly and never forgets it again. It is docile and versatile in the hands of a good instructor. Even better if such a person is its master. It is endowed with a nervy but not irritable temperament. Indeed, it must always show it has control over its reactions and is very balanced. Only its reaction to a threat will be fearsome if it is really necessary. The Doberman's nature is visible from its head. It is proud and noble, always held erect, on a powerful but elegant neck. Its expression is attentive, and the penetrating and flaming eyes denote courage, loyalty, great intelligence, will, and a temperament full of fire and passion. It is a striking and enchanting head. A final quick mention concerning activities in which the Doberman has been used thanks to its intelligence and balance. Females especially have been used in assisting the blind, a task in which they have given proof of their extreme awareness and immense love for their masters. Also in the Civil Defence Service, the breed has shown strong nerves and exceptional self-control, bringing assistance with docility and sweetness and saving a lot of lives, thanks to their ability to move quickly over any terrain and their sensitivity and extraordinary sense of smell. In the United States, they have also proved excellent dogs for pet therapy, that is, in providing psychological relief to people and traumatized children. An exceptional dog, therefore, worthy of the utmost respect and great admiration, and not of stupid as much as groundless rumours as has happened in the past. Medium-sized dog, of strong construction, muscular but elegant, noble and agile. Inscribable in a square, that is, with a long torso, at most 5%, 10% in females more than the height at the withers. Males, height at the withers 68 to 72 centimeters, females 63 to 68 centimeters. Weight of males 40 to 45 kilograms, females 32 to 35 kilograms. Basically, amiable and good-natured character, kind and affectionate, with children and a family, easy to educate, brave, of good temperament, vigilant, refined average response threshold, as are the temperament and mordacity. Free and long gait with an elastic stride, agile, with the front pushed as far forward as possible, with a rear that gives powerful thrust. The dog simultaneously puts forward one front limb and the opposite rear one. Short-haired coat, rough, shiny, smooth, very adherent. Underfur is not admitted. Black or brown coloured with red rust coloured dapple that is well pronounced and clearly defined, situated at patches on the cheeks, above the eyes, on the throat, 2 on the chest, on metacarpi and metatarsi, at the feet, on the insides of the thighs, around the anus and on the point of the buttocks, taut, well-pigmented skin all over. As for the colour, it should be pointed out that black and brown are the only colours admitted since 1995. Blue has been eliminated since it was the carrier of a pathology that affected the skin and hair and resulted in the loss of the latter, dry skin and pustules, sometimes straight from birth. Since it concerns a problem that is unresponsive to every treatment and is chronic, it was preferable to eliminate this colour variety. A simple explanation about coat colour states that Dobermans can be shades of black, brown, blue and Isabella. Blue, as we have seen, has not been admitted since 1995. It is a dilution of black, whereas Isabella, which has never been admitted, is a dilution of brown. In a dog, the transmissibility of the colour depends on its own genetic heritage, and since the colour genes belong to both the phenotype, that is, the colour of the dog which is seen, as well as to the genotype, that is, to the genetic heritage inherited from its ancestors and which is invisible, it is not easy to control a breed's colour with certainty. Head with a strong cranium proportionate to the body, truncated cone-shaped, well-developed superciliary arches, barely traced occipital apophysis, parallel craniofacial axes, a perceptible but poorly developed stop, strongly developed muscles, well-developed muzzle proportionate to the cranium, a nose that is more wide than round with broad nostrils, not prominent. It should be black in black dogs and lighter in dogs with brown coats. Firm and smooth lips with dark pigmentation, lighter in brown-coated dogs. Dark eyes of average size, they can be a little bit lighter in brown-coated dogs. High inserted ears cut to a length proportionate to the head, held straight, if not cut, where cutting them is prohibited. They are of average size with the front edge well stuck to the cheek. A muscular, lean, elegant and distinct neck of proportionate length to the body and to the head. Full dentition on wide, powerful jaws, scissor-type closure. Front limbs of strong structure, perfectly plumb, a muscular scapula adhering well to the thorax. Long and muscular legs, scapulohumeral angle of 105 degrees to 110 degrees, elbows adhering to the body, strong, straight and muscular forelegs, strong metacarpi, plumb when viewed from the front, inclined by 10 degrees in profile. Rear limbs viewed from behind which seem wide and rounded owing to the powerful musculature of the pelvis and the crupper. Powerful limbs perpendicular to the ground and parallel to each other. Powerful and muscular thigh, angulation of the open hock 140 degrees. Short feet with compact and arched digits and black claws. High chest, more or less half the height at the withers, its length proportionate to the length of the torso, slightly hooped ribs. Dorsum with clearly detached withers, solid and short, fairly long kidney, solid and muscular, a strongly muscular, imperceptibly inclined crupper. Distinctly upward abdomen. A short, high inserted tail, cutting away to leave 2 caudal vertebrae. A proper diet is essential to your dog's correct and full development so as to be able to keep it in perfect shape and health. Some people believe that dogs can eat virtually anything and therefore give their dogs all kinds of food, often recycling the leftovers from their own meals. This is a serious mistake, since what may be digestible to us and a source of nourishing substances often cannot be digested by dogs or is unable to be metabolized. A final piece of advice. It sometimes happens that a dog loses its appetite and refuses food for 1 or even 2 days. This is a normal occurrence, and in these cases it is a good rule not to always leave a full bowl of food down for the dogs. Instead, the food should be removed after a short time. Present the bowl of food again at the following mealtime after having changed its contents. In the event of loss of appetite lasting for more than 2 days without the presence of side symptoms, or if it is accompanied from the outset by symptoms of general suffering or exhaustion, consult your vet immediately. It is very likely to be an ordinary ailment, but in this case it is not worth taking a risk. and it's better to seek reassurance from an expert. We will now begin with a brief description of a dog's digestive apparatus. As in all carnivores, the stomach is of large dimensions, whereas the intestine is relatively short. Initial digestion in the stomach takes from 3 to 8 hours. Then the food passes into the intestine, where the nourishing substances are assimilated, which are then transmitted to all the organs through the blood. The stomach's large capacity and the slow digestion process allow abundant meals to be eaten at fairly spaced out intervals. Naturally, to keep dogs in excellent health, it is necessary to provide them with all the elements that they require, that is, proteins, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, and minerals. When dogs were carnivorous predators, these elements were assimilated by dogs through the animals that they hunted, and which were generally herbivores. Afterwards, civilization has led it to feed differently, but it will always be necessary to provide dogs with the appropriate substances. Dogs produce energy from their diet, which is then used for the maintenance of vital functions and movement. The more active a dog is, the greater the energy intake it will require. Without going into detailed food studies that would require a specific treatise, we can simply say that dogs particularly require fats or lipids, both of animal and vegetable origin, and it is these which provide the necessary energy and which accumulate in the organism to provide possible energy reserves. The proteins that make up the large part of the animal's body are also essential. These are indispensable to the formation of all the tissues, especially muscles, and also constitute the basis of hormones and the blood. They therefore represent an irreplaceable element in a proper diet, even more so in puppies, which must build their bodies. Sources of protein are meat, cheese, eggs and fish, which are well digested by dogs, and also soybean flour, peanuts, legumes, which are however digested with more difficulty. An excess of proteins is harmful and can lead to various kinds of disorders, depending on the conditions. Carbohydrates are not essential to a dog's diet. They are, however, very useful at the end of pregnancy. Starch, which is the most important carbohydrate present in the diet, is poorly digested by dogs and needs to undergo preliminary treatment such as cooking, flaking, etc. This is why if you use pasta or rice as a food for your canine friend, it needs to be boiled for a long time to eliminate a large part of the starch present. Fiber, which often accompanies carbohydrates, is especially useful in the diet of sedentary dogs, since it helps to prevent constipation, given the speed with which it passes through the alimentary tract. Vitamins are also necessary, even if in infinitesimal amounts. They are found in many vegetables and are synthesized by herbivorous animals. This is the reason why when a carnivore kills its prey, generally herbivorous, it immediately feeds on the intestines, where there are residues of partially digested vegetable matter. This also explains why, to your considerable annoyance, your dog often eats the excrement of herbivorous animals as soon as it gets the chance. A build-up of vitamins can be harmful, and therefore, if you use pre-prepared feed, you should carefully check the substances contained in the feed before adding supplements, and if in doubt, consult your vet. Minerals are essential to the diet and are supplied by foods. Deficiency in certain minerals such as calcium, iron, potassium, sodium, copper, and others can cause abnormal growth in puppies, also with serious consequences and general debility in adult dogs, or the onset of problems of varying degrees. There is excellent pre-packed feed on the market, both moist and dry types, that provide all the necessary elements for initial growth, and to then keep your dog in top shape. Even if you use pre-packed feed, you will, however, be able to give some fruit or other food which your dog will find tasty, taking care not to exaggerate and not to give harmful substances such as sweets, fried foods, rice dishes, fresh or soft doughy bread that are extremely harmful and which can also have very serious long-term consequences. Instead, if you want to prepare the food yourself, then follow the advice of the breeder who sold you the dog, or your vet's advice. As a general rule, it is worth knowing that meat, ideally beef, is essential. If pork meat is given, it must be well cooked in order to avoid infections. Poultry, meat and rabbit are also fine, provided that they are completely boneless. Giblets, although less rich in nourishing substances, are well liked. Fish is an excellent food and is best given cooked. It is particularly advisable for low-fat diets for dogs with digestive or skin problems. It is also an excellent means with which to make the diet less monotonous. Eggs are appetizing and supply many nourishing substances. They are particularly advisable for puppies and suckling females. Yolks can be consumed raw, whereas the albumin should always be cooked. Fats, such as lard and oil, are always readily accepted by dogs and are particularly useful during moments of work or physical effort. 1 or 2 teaspoonfuls of oil added to food are always beneficial. Dry bread is a good energy source, but it must be well dried. It is also useful for cleaning your dog's teeth and for keeping them in good condition. Pasta and rice are very useful, but as we have already said, they should be cooked very well to eliminate starch, which is not easily digested. Fruit and vegetables, even if not essential, can be given to dogs that appreciate them. However, the nutritional intake is very slight and is only worthy of note for the intake of roughage. Needless to say, the final element which is essential to nutrition is water. Fresh and plentiful, that must be available at all times. If in a bowl, it should be changed as often as possible, especially during hot spells. It is absolutely indispensable to dogs that eat dry and not moistened feed. The final aspect of the diet to take into consideration is the frequency of meals. From birth, puppies have their meals by following times that are spaced out by the instinct of the mother and the other siblings in the litter. The feeds are gradually reduced during weaning and are integrated with suitable foods that should be recommended by an experienced breeder or a vet. Between 1 and 3 months of age, weaned puppies should have 4 meals at regular intervals. From 4 to 7 or 8 months, the number of meals can be reduced to 3, further reduced to 2 meals at 8 to 18 months, and afterwards, if desired, down to just 1 meal a day, even if it is not harmful to continue with 2. On the contrary, this is recommended by certain individuals. The decision to have a dog is an important one to make, which must be thought over carefully without ignoring some useful basic information. The vaccination prophylaxis must always be carried out with utmost care to try and protect not only the puppies but also adult dogs from the most common illnesses. Generally speaking, a puppy leaves the breeder after having been vaccinated at around 40 to 45 days with a triad vaccine against canine distemper, infectious hepatitis and parvovirus. A second quadrivalent vaccination, also including leptospirosis as well as the 3 ailments already mentioned, is generally carried out after 3 weeks. An additional vaccination can be carried out after a month, again quadrivalent, to be then replaced annually throughout the dog's lifespan. A dog can be vaccinated only if it is in perfect health and thus also free from endoparasites. Appropriate antihelminthic treatment must be carried out normally twice a year. Different types of ascarids exist, each of which specifically infests an animal species, man included, and there is practically no risk of zoonosis, that is, transmission of the infestation from dog to man. It is important that dogs are also kept free from ectoparasites, that is, those that live on dogs such as fleas and mites, both of which are hematophages. Moreover, fleas act as an intermediate host for a type of taenia. Numerous specific products exist to free dogs from these annoying parasites, but one must not forget to also carry out appropriate disinfesting operations in the areas where dogs live. The arrival of spring exacerbates the problems caused by undesired guests, the mites that arrive along with the initial spring warmth. A run in the meadows through woods, perhaps near groups of farmhouses and farms where there is livestock, can result in our canine friend returning home with mites. Not necessarily, since some factors may exist which make a dog more or less susceptible, also depending on its general state of health, that can influence whether or not a dog will pick up these acari. They represent a grave danger to dogs because they transmit pyroplasmosis, a serious infection carried by protozoa of the Pyroplasma species that affects pets and also causes death if not discovered and treated in time. The symptoms in its acute form are represented by fever, also sthenic, asthenia, pallor of the apparent mucous membranes, and hyperchromia of the urine that can also become brown-black in colour. In advanced cases, jaundice and a comatose state which could possibly result in death. The mites suck blood for 2 or 3 weeks, and once having mated, the female then detaches itself from the animal and deposits the eggs a week later. The deposited larvae, recognizable by their reddish colour, are minute, like tiny beads. They also look for a host on which to climb, sucking blood for several days. They then detach themselves and after a few days change into octopede nymphs of bluish colour. They become adults towards August or September. With the arrival of autumn, the adults immediately upon hatching then lay dormant in cracks in the ground until the next spring. In general, the mites attach themselves to less thick skin such as ears, armpits, groin, between the digits of the paws. Therefore, as a precautionary measure, we should always examine our canine friends for signs of any undesired guests after a walk in the open. Correct dog hygiene starts with coat care. For most breeds, but not all, it is advisable to brush the coat almost daily in order to remove the hairs that have reached the end of their life cycle. The coat of many breeds requires specialized grooming which is to be carried out several times a year. One must not generalize about the fact that a shiny coat is a sign of good health, since in some breeds it should have a tendency to be dull. Dogs must not be washed too often so as not to damage the protective function of the sebaceous glands. The skin in normal conditions should always look clean without dandruff deposits or desquamations of any kind. Should cutaneous alterations appear such as eczema, alopecia areas, i.e. hair loss and failure of hair regrowth, thickening or the appearance of abnormal pigmentation, consult your vet without delay. Cutaneous alterations due to mycosis or mange are spread by contagion, but only in the case of particularly debilitated animals and when one fails to observe the most basic hygienic rules. Claws must also be checked periodically. These are normally worn down in dogs that undergo normal physical activities, but it may be necessary to shorten them with the aid of a special tool. Oral hygiene should never be overlooked, and especially in miniature breeds, tartar removal is necessary from time to time because it can cause pyorrhea and bad breath. Certain bones are available on the market that besides constituting a treat for our four-legged friend, act as a natural toothbrush. In puppies aged between 4 and 6 months, the deciduous dentition is gradually replaced by the permanent one. Regular inspections of the mouth are advisable during this period to check that everything is okay. The existence of cardiopulmonary filariasis, a serious disease caused by a nematode parasite, Dirofilaria immitis, or the blood and heart, has been known for several centuries, as has been known the important transmission mechanism of the disease by the mosquito for about a century. However, it is only in the last 20 years, due to the rapid diffusion of filariasis in dogs kept for company and work dogs, that research institutes, pharmaceutical companies and vets have paid increasing attention to the problem. It is therefore important that dog owners are also aware, even if in general terms, of the existence and phenomena of the parasitosis. The transmission of the disease occurs through the mosquito's sting, which takes up the filaria larvae by sucking blood from an infected subject to then inoculate them into another healthy dog. The high contagiousness of the parasitosis is therefore easily understandable, in addition to its seasonality, spring-summer. During a period of around 6 months, the larvae in the dog's blood grow into adult worms that are situated in the heart and pulmonary arteries. In turn, the adult filariae produce small larvae called microfilariae which will live in the blood. The dogs most affected are obviously those that spend more or less long periods outside, hence gun dogs, work dogs, and those that sleep in the open. The damage induced by the presence of the filaria is of considerable seriousness for that which concerns the cardiocirculatory function, and initially shown as a tendency for dogs to tire easily and the presence of a cough or respiratory dysfunction. The vet giving treatment at this stage will perform different clinical and laboratory tests that will confirm the presence of the parasites. On the contrary, the damage caused by chronic cardiopulmonary filariasis is extremely serious. The alteration of the cardiocirculatory function is often accompanied by liver and kidney lesions and a state of generalized hypersensitivity in the whole organism. The prevention programs that have only been practicable for a few years thanks to the use of specific new drugs are simple to carry out and do not involve toxicity risks for dogs. After having carried out a test to ensure the absence of a previous infestation, the oral administration of a medicine once a month for the duration of the entire hot season will give dogs effective protection, also if they are stung by an infected mosquito.